Bob Ross was one of the most productive 1980s and 1990s painters. He taught art lovers a certain painting style and taught his followers kindness and care. He taught silence, yet his voice and words of consolation still soothe. Even so, this prominent man's life has a dark side. Before dying at 52, Bob Ross articulated what we all thought. Jack and Olly Ross had Robert Bob Norman Ross at Daytona Beach on October 29, 1942. This was before his fame. Father was a builder, mother a waitress. They were average individuals. Ross was kind to animals since childhood. He treated injured mice, armadillos, snakes, and alligators as a child. As he aged, some of these animals appeared in his show. Some may not realize that Ross had a half-brother named Jim. He mentioned Jim once and didn't say much about him. Ross worked with his dad as a carpenter after dropping out of school. This injury cost him a small chunk of his left index finger. Luckily, Ross's regular life wasn't affected. Later in his career, he could hold a box correctly. Ross joined service at 18, joining the U.S. Air Force. He rose from medical records assistant to first sergeant of the Alaskan Eisen Air Force Base Clinic. This location is still noted for its stunning beauty that showcases nature's purity. Ross painted mountains and snow repeatedly after viewing them for the first time. Bob Ross's life was profoundly impacted by an accident before any of this. His part-time bartending job introduced him to Bill Alexander's The Magic of Oil Painting. Alexander's program introduced Ross to alla prima. The 1600s art style alla prima resembles wet on wet. The painter can work faster and finish the board faster if the paint isn't dry before applying another layer. Alexander showed he could finish the picture in 30 minutes, inspiring Ross to attempt. At this point, everyone should know Ross was exhausted from work and raising Steve alone. Because of this, painting became his refuge and passion. Many years later, Ross stated witnessing Alexander finish the image so rapidly almost drove him crazy. It took him days, but the older man did it instantly. Ross was lucky to learn that Alexander was holding teacher training 1 hour from work. This felt like a fantastic chance to learn painting and become Alexander's helper. Ross changed after class. His passion for painting became obsession. He was assigned to Fairbanks Eisen Air Force Base, which was bad. By the time he was good, the legendary painter had studied the wet-on-wet approach extensively. This was how he painted Alaskan scenes on gold mine pans. It was popular and kept selling. He eventually made more from selling drawings than from his employment. Ross, a master sergeant at 39, left the Army. As mentioned, Bob Ross was known for his soothing voice, which is ironic since he had to be cruel to train his soldiers. Ross began drawing during his work breaks, which helped him cope with the stress. Ross vowed never to be rough again after the military. Ross fell in love with drawing after taking an Anchorage USO Club art class. He was startled that he disagreed with his abstract art-loving painting teachers. Everyone knows Ross adored drawing landscapes, which dominated his latter work. So he followed Alexander's method and improved. Ross returned to Florida to view Alexander's work after his retirement. He quickly advanced in Alexander's Magic Art Supplies company to become a traveling salesperson and teacher. Everything went well for a time, especially since Alexander needed more art teachers to teach and sell his excellent art instruments. It included Alexander's renowned large brushes, a palette knife he made, and magic white, his basic paint used in all his paintings. Ross abandoned his child with his second wife to become Alexander's Salem salesman. His wife let him work on this project for a year. He would return home if it failed. Ross met his customers at this work, and Annette Kowalski helped him become renowned. Annette and Walt Kowalski were devastated after their 25-year-old son perished in a traffic accident. Walt loved his wife, while Annette was dead and had no idea what to do for days. When she learned about Bill Alexander, fate renewed her emotions. He showed her that life has more to offer and that the world is magnificent. Walt called Alexander's firm to see if any workshops were close after seeing this improvement. They drove from 1,000 miles away, so Anne could attend Bob Ross's Clearwater, Florida class. Ross's face no longer revealed service marks. His bob hairdo and laid-back attitude resembled a hippie who loved painting. Bob Ross admired the older man as a hero before they fought. He dedicated his second how-to book to Bill. In a time when it said there are no heroes, I feel most fortunate to have been inspired and influenced by a giant in the field of art, Bill Alexander. He has been my mentor and friend, and has been so instrumental in everything I have accomplished. Bob Ross Inc. transformed their friendship, which began because they liked painting and nature, like all good things. The Kowalskis asked Ross to teach a few sessions in Washington, D.C., which inspired Ross's business. Ross took the position for the money. For his work, the Kowalskis paid him and let him use their additional room. The pair bought everything, including art supplies and tools. Annette loved Bob immediately away and suggested him he could start a business during one of their courses. She and her husband Walt gave Ross and his wife money to start a business. Despite competent and connected employees, Bob Ross Inc. struggled in its early years. You should also know that the two painters' friendship is still unstrained. Alexander was so generous he helped Ross gain power. The older painter granted Ross time to film with him. This means Alexander and Ross regularly shared the screen. Alexander passes the brush in a promo. When YPB, the local PBS station, called Ross and Annette Kowalski during a lesson in Indiana, things went awry. They joked that he was giving the almighty brush to an almighty man. Ross jumped at the possibility. Alexander's show was the station's top, but Ross's joy of painting was more popular and took prominence. Soon, most people liked the show. His humbleness and camera presence made it happen. Soon, it was shown on multiple stations, making Ross a TV star. Despite the sadness, this is why the artist fought. Bad experiences inspired a show that makes people feel wonderful and provides them ideas. When Bob Ross Inc.'s fate is revealed, this will seem sad. In 1991, Bill Alexander informed the New York Times that Ross had lied to him, saying he invented the wet-on-wet approach, but thought he could improve it. Bob Ross Inc. succeeded well because 60 PBS stations ran his 1982 art class, which Ross had filmed in Falls Church, Virginia. He painted for free and was paid by how-to books, art supplies, and videos. Bob Ross has done much solo work. Season 1 of The Joy of Painting broadcast from January 1983 to May 1994. Create and Hulu still air it. Bob Ross Inc. grown from a tiny to $1, $15 million business with Ross certified instructors teaching his seminars. Ross is said to have painted 30,000 works. Most of his works are owned by Bob Ross Inc., a Kowalski family business, making them hard to find. Everyone was surprised when Bob Ross died unexpectedly from cancer on July 4, 1995, because he was so quiet. He prepared 7 paintings for the 32nd season of The Joy of Painting. Only 52 he was. Today, Bob Ross is associated with art, nature, and pleasure. His image influences TV series, movies, characters, and more in pop culture. The Joy of Painting aired non-stop for 9 days on Twitch in October 2015 to celebrate the painter's 73rd birthday. Since the event was so successful, Twitch repeated it every Monday. Stream proceeds will go to various causes. Next year, Netflix added Bob Ross's Beauty is Everywhere. This gave the painter new acquaintances and renewed life and work motivation. The Kowalskis followed this progress. They succeeded in business. Within a year, their Bob Ross YouTube channel attracted 1 million subscribers. Since they're the only ones who can control Ross's image, they can't overlook this opportunity. Kowalskis became sole owners of the business after Ross and his wife died. The corporate regulations required the remaining partners to share the equity equally if a partner died. Since they were business-minded, the Kowalskis lived longer than Ross and his second wife, which was good. Later, they brutally attacked Ross's family to obtain the famed painter to grant them rights before he died. Ross was family-oriented and disliked fighting. He left the Kowalskis out of his will and granted his kids Steve and Jim, his half-brother, his name, image, and everything he possessed. The peaceful rights campaign turned violent, but the Kowalskis persisted. They claimed Bob Ross got paid for all his firm efforts. The Kowalskis won the lawsuit and the ruling, a mess after another, but the Ross family's remaining members eventually recovered. Joan Kowalski took over the firm after her parents retired and made modifications. Unlike her nasty parents, she opened out about the business and showed others how to sell the things outside of their core business. She negotiated a contract allowing Steve Ross and Jimmy Cox, Bob Ross's half-brother, to utilize the Ross name and image without penalty. Steve Ross could paint and run his art business again after this move. He stopped doing that to avoid getting sued. Bob Ross is one of the few renowned persons who has kept most of his life private. We know he's married 3 times and has 2 kids. He had his first child with a younger girlfriend. He had a son with first wife Vivian Ridge. His son Robert Stephen Ross also painted. Ross and Ridge divorced, but Ross's relationship with his son grew stronger. Steve Ross appeared in several episodes of The Joy of Painting. He became a Ross certified teacher and continued his father's career. The Joy of Painting's first season ended with young Steve reading viewers' how-to questions to Ross. Naturally, the older Ross took his time answering their query while finishing the picture. Ross remarried the year he divorced Ridge. Jane was his second wife. The couple had no children. Had she not died of cancer in 1995, they would have married longer. Ross's third and final wife was Linda Brown. They married in 1995, 2 months before his death. Bob Ross, the happy painter, reveals little about his personal life. Only a few talks reveal his personality. Other than that, Bob Ross Inc. keeps most things confidential. This safeguards his privacy and IP. Many wonder what faith Bob Ross followed. Because he was secretive, we may never know. We do know that he stated his belief in a creator God who created everything. He also closed his broadcast by wishing viewers God bless. Ross also helped injured animals. Some even appeared in Ross's The Joy of Painting paintings. The BBC showed old episodes of The Joy of Painting again during COVID-19 so people could watch Bob Ross's paintings and learn from him at home.